So, without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, first question. What was the Black Death? A wonderful question. Now, the Black Death is very, very specifically an outbreak of the bubonic plague that started in the 14th century in 1338.
Yeah.
You can get the bubonic plague at other periods of time, and in fact, it becomes endemic in Afro-Eurasia after this initial outbreak. But if you're talking about those outbreaks of plague, that's not the Black Death. That's just sparkling death. The Black Death has to be the original one from the 14th century. Next question.
Pretty cool. And also, just to answer the question asked, I don't know if she's going to tackle this, but it's an outbreak of an infectious disease based on the Yersinia pestis bacterium.
When was the Black Death?
Right.
Okay, so linking back to the first part of this, it starts out in 1338 in what is now Kyrgyzstan. And we know this as a result of the fact that a bunch of people died, first off. And second of all, they had graves that specifically gave the date and said that the people there died of plague.
Right.
So it starts out in Kyrgyzstan, but Kyrgyzstan is a very important place in the medieval world.
Yeah,
because
trading.
it's smack dab in the middle of the Silk Roads. So you've got lots of caravans coming through, and the plague is able to spread from the people there who have it.
Man, look at this. I know we're talking about the Black Death, but look at these beautiful colors. This guy is green, but he's wearing a red hat, and the guy is wearing red is wearing a green hat. I love that. I wonder if it's like some kind of, if they agreed to do that beforehand. I also love the blue horse. I wish I could find myself a blue horse. I'll have to ask Jason Kingsley if he knows anything about blue horses.
Onto the caravans and begin moving back and forth east and west. So it begins to make its way slowly into China and into Europe. It gets into Europe about 9 years later. So about 1347, it first happens in Italy.
Yeah, depending on what you see, sometimes it's considered as 1340, 1346, 1353 is one where you find it. It kind of depends which accounts you consider. I don't have a problem with her saying it starts at 1347. It really depends who you ask.
And we think about December 1347 for that. And then by June 1348, it's finally hit England. So it really depends on where you are at the time. You know,
Yeah.
in Baghdad, they get the plague at a different time to Kyrgyzstan to London. It all
Yeah.
depends on how well connected you are and how far away you are from Kyrgyzstan, basically.
She's right.
Where was the Black Death? The Black Death is an Afro-Eurasian problem. So basically, if you are in Africa, Europe, or Asia, congratulations, you have the Black Death now.
I don't know why that reminded me of Risk.
So basically, there's some people who don't get it. So Australasia, they don't have to deal with it, nor do the Americas, though everybody can have the Black Death now, except for Australia. Good for you, Australia. But the Black Death is basically something that happens everywhere. And there's a common misconception that this is something that just happened to Europe, but if
No.
you think that, it's because you only speak European languages, basically. So, you know, we have a kind of bias of sources.
I'm not sure why she would say that, though. I mean, I know a lot of it is like her humor. So sometimes I don't know if a statement is meant to be taken seriously or if she's speaking tongue-in-cheek. Is it European biases? Well, I guess. But then again, you can absolutely read a book about Kyrgyzstan without knowing the language that, that they speak there. You could just read a book in English about it. And I doubt, Professor, that you read Italian or that you read, well, Italian is a European language, but do you speak any Asian or African language? But then again, maybe I'm over-analyzing. It's pedantic Metatron again. Leave it alone. Fine. It was a joke. Let's consider it to be a joke.
Is where we tend to read things in our own language. Surprise! But there's plenty of stuff written down in Mandarin about how they
Right.
get the Black Death. Tons of stuff in Arabic. Basically, it's possible to get it if you are just circulating. And there's tons of circulation in the 14th century in Afro-Eurasia. People are trading goods all the time.
Yeah.
Stuff is moving back and forth. And just like now, part of the stuff that moves back and forth is germs, unfortunately.
Yep.
So yeah, if you're in Africa, Europe, or Asia, I'm very, very sorry, but I have some terrible news for you about the Black Death.
She's right.
How many people died of the Black Death?
Ooh, now I'm interested to see if she has actually, because she's the professional historian, I'm very interested to see if she actually is going to give numbers, because I wouldn't be able to give numbers. I looked into it and it's always